couple of days ago against MVP. Now we'll get a chance to once again come in and find his first professional victory. Has not been able to pick up a single game victory on the side of Kongdoo Monster. Better late than never is the way there, and it would also be a big dent into the playoff hopes if Kongdoo were to win even a single game. So we'll see if Yujun can come in, find some level of consistency. Hasn't really made a great argument for himself, as at the start of the season he was playing his normal picks, the Rengar, the Kha'Zix. He's back to the standard tanks, and if you're going tanks, why not raise is kind of what we've seen.
Yeah, for sure. So either way, we're going to jump into pick and ban for game number 2. This time, the ROX Tigers gonna hop on over to the blue side. They're gonna go ahead and ban the Camille once again. May see some similar bans in this series. Although the Fira was not half bad from Roach. We'll see where that's rated by both of these teams in this pick and ban.
Where they go in terms of the bans here for ROX Tigers when you're facing against Kongdoo Monster. I'd like to see a blue side GP ban, because I have been impressed with Roach on that champion. The Scion so far doesn't have any attention from either ROX or Kongdoo Monster.
Seems like definitely BDD and Kingzone are one of the teams that really value the Scion rather very, very high in terms of its versatility. You can put it into multiple lanes, you can pick it early, stuff like that. We're not going to be seeing the Caitlyn again. Giving Sol the benefit of the doubt that he's not going to face check this time around.
Does mean a first pick Tristana from ROX Tigers is very possible, as a lot of the answers to the Tristana currently in the meta are taken away in the Caitlyn and the Varus. GP will be the final ban, so we'll see how high priority ROX Tigers want to put on an AD carry here. The Scion is still open, and we wondered if that would be first pick territory. We've seen it fall further down in picks and bans in our first series. We'll be locked in now. Does fit Lava's playstyles with our first Galio player in the LCK, and if they can put together the Scion and the Tristana, that'll go a great way to cribbing some notes from Kingzone, going for a very Kingzone-esque composition.
Well, you got the X right. They got it in their name anyway, so there's that. Could look at going to the Xayah again if they feel comfortable with Sangin on the Xayah. We've seen it have a lot of success so far, especially today.
There is the old favorite of Sol. Sol hasn't had the split in spring of 2018 that he did the last 2 times Kongdoo Monster played in the LCK, where he looked like their superstar. But his signature pick is definitely the Kog'Maw, so protect the Kog'Maw. Could be happening on the red side. On the blue side here for ROX Tigers, again with the Scion, if it is mid lane, you expect a pretty similar composition, and the Kog'Maw is the pick that Kingzone traditionally go, so you can go for that hybrid damage from the role of the AD carry. Tristana may be overlooked in this draft completely, as they're considering the Ezreal. This would suggest to me maybe it's going to be a Scion top lane. Otherwise, there can be some pretty significant damage concerns on the side of the ROX Tigers.
Or they might be saying, hey, Kongdoo Monster didn't perform that well. Let's try to end it really early. One of these hard to pull off compositions where you got to end the game before too much armor is stacked, and just try to push it in with the Scion and Banner of Command. Not sure if ROX Tigers have the ability and the skill to pull that off. Well, let's see what they think about themselves, as Ornn is picked up here for Kongdoo Monster.
And you know it's going to be 4 beefy tanks and a Kog'Maw the moment the Kog'Maw is drafted early. Again, it's a staple of Kongdoo Monster's playbook. Wonder if we'll see a Braum ban to try to answer the Ornn ultimate, because Braum is usually opted into against Ornn, whether it's support Ornn or top lane Ornn. For that particular reason, Tahm Kench going to be banned away on blue side to increase the reliability of both the Unstoppable Onslaught, but largely the Skarner ultimate plays. And no Braum ban, interesting. Could just take Braum on the red side as well. Sejuani Braum synergy and Ornn in the top lane, given we've seen very little Ornn support in recent times.
Well, there it is, the Braum gonna be banned here, actually. Thinking maybe Kongdoo Monster would pick that up here on first pick.
the choices here. I think they were loading up for a Braum pick on the side of Kongdoo Monsters. It's been a fun little mind game around that pick to track. Waiting for mid lane and ostensibly the flex pick support to be decided.
Ryze left available, certainly going to be very, very nice. Not a tank for the Kog'Maw, but certainly has other abilities in his kit.
And he role plays as a tank with the Seraph's Embrace shield and is generally fairly high HP build, so definitely fits the mold of a mid laner around the Kog'Maw. Now that Orianna's been so heavily deprioritized. ROX Tigers, the jig is up. We're going to find out whether it's going to be Sion mid lane or Sion top lane very promptly.
Thresh being a key special. One of the picks he's played the most outside of Tom Kent. Currently 2-5, but looking to up that win rate. Azir being hovered here. We're going to see Ryze Azir again. A very common thing here in the LCK. And it will be the Sion in the top lane.
And it's a pretty happy scenario where now the Ezreal doesn't need to be the brunt of the damage. They have the consistent damage from the Azir as well. So they're just trying to crest in the mid game. 2 items. They should be very, very powerful should the ROX Tigers. And Kongdoo Monster, if they can play around the Kog'Maw, also will have 2 item options. So we could see some very bloody team fights early as way into the final second we see a Morgana support opted into no Braum or Tom Kench to pair with the Kog'Maw. Double ranged champions on both the blue and red side, but Morgana's lane phase has always been something that's been pretty easily exploitable. The death sentence on a much shorter cooldown than the Black Shield early in the game, so very much going to be some playmaking and actually a lane that Thresh can look to attack in the 2v2.
Yeah. Definitely a pick you'll see more in other regions. I see it a bunch in NA from time to time, but LCK, not too common. I'm not even sure. This might be like the first Morgana we've had here in this season.
Maybe Ignar played 1 game. I want to say it's the second,
Maybe.
But you're right. It's definitely been 1 or 2 games of the Morgana support because the laning phase is so weak. There's less synergy with the Spell Thief's line as well because you cannot just put down the W and pick up 3 stacks instantly of the Spell Thief, so gold generation's not going to be guaranteed either. It's basically a pick for 1 ability, the Black Shield, in order to keep the Kog'Maw safe in the backline. But that is a pretty significant investment, whereas if Ezreal and Thresh as double range can take the turret early and roam with the Thresh, the roaming impact of the Thresh is a tier above anything Morgana can actually perform.
Yeah, certainly Morgana has a bit of pick potential herself with the binding. Very long lockdown on that one, but extremely hard to hit. Maybe can make it happen with the help of some of the other CC she has with the Ryze, Sejuani, and even the Ornn to land that one. So we'll see. I mean, the Seeker was smiling. He was nodding his head. He seems like he really is ready to play this Morgana. Let's see it in action here on the Rift for game number 2. Here we go, match 80. The last match here of week 8.
The last match of patch 8.4 as well. So I'm ready for some bannons. We won't be naming them as much on patch 8.5 because they no longer have the MVP status of being more important than a 2 or 3 item jungler most of the time.
Yeah. Part of the reason why you get the banner is to help that bannered up banned minion be better than yourself. It's a very selfless job. Again, happy with the skin choice here for Soul. I feel like we've seen only like 3 or 4 other Kog'Maw skins. Like 4 other games with a different Kog'Maw skin. Seems like all the LCK players agree with me, Papa.
Look, I can't deny what has been a confident choice. Sungyun's walking up, and speaking of skin choice, he's jumped on the Pulsefire Ezreal. That is, a lot of players prefer not to go for because of the change in animations, and there was a long-standing bug around sound effects after you get a last hit, not registering the gold sound after you get a last hit. So a lot of people haven't used it, so that's a little skin thing as well. I'm all about the Caterpillar Kog'Maw personally, but I have a lot of Kog'Maw skins that I rank above the Pugmaw.
Yeah.
Even the red Kongdoo, the Sonoran Kongdoo, I take that.
They just need to add the chromas like we were talking about last time with the different types of dogs. But
what type of dog are you looking
for? A man can only dream. I mean, there's so many different types of dogs, right? Speaking of them, trying to help out Morgana here, the Ignite comes in, and Secret, they force the heal out of Soul as well as the exhaust very early on. You can see they were backing up in the lane. They knew that level 2 play from Thresh was going to come through, but they still go down in health because of it.
We've had so many level 1, level 2 trades in the bot lane. 3 games in a row, someone has emerged with maybe 100 to 200 health. It was the Janna in game 1, and it's actually SKT's bot lane in both games. We mentioned already that Morgana does struggle in the laning phase. It's very easy to bait out the Black Shield and then go for the secondary hook. Wait and see what Key's skill order will be. You look at most top Thresh players, and I'm thinking of Mada and Madlife when it comes to Korea. It's 3 points into Flay, then max into the Q, the Death Sentence. You might just go straight Death Sentence max if you want to play around the Black Shield timing. So we'll wait and see here. Get some information, as Key, like you mentioned, is another one of those very notable Thresh players. His Bard is deprioritized, so we're going to have to do with his Thresh only.
Yeah, his Thresh, rather, is pretty good. I mean, it's no Mata, as you mentioned, but it's not half bad. I'd say maybe third. I think Gorilla's Thresh is pretty decent, too.
He's an Alistair man, let's be real.
Not sure how he feels about it, though.
Watching the early trades, Grass of the Undying taken in by Roach to try to win the 1v1 trades, and he's actually able to break the Soul Furnace shield quite a lot here from the Scion, so it's actually a lane that Scion doesn't walk away with, like most of his lanes in the mid lane on patch 8.4.
I like that the Observer's keeping the camera down here in the bottom lane because not too much action elsewhere on the map, as both of the junglers just went for as much of a full clear as they possibly could. Looks like Eugene is just one camp behind doing his Krugs right now.
There's not much to watch. You got to make things happen. Songwon got a scrying plant vision there to take out some vision, but he's all about power farming till level 6. Although now we do see Thresh coming to join in here. They could try to bait Edge. Unlikely to be pulled off.
Couldn't get that ward either. Actually grants Edge a little bit more safety in the mid lane because we'll be able to see the Skarner coming in with that ward.
Definitely not a purchase I recommend, but purchase he ends up with is a Fairy Charm refillable, a couple of control wards. That doesn't feel good if you are the Morgana. Mentioned already that generating gold is very difficult with the new Spell Thieves line of AP items. No longer proccing on the Tormented Soil. When we first saw a lot of Morgana support, it was Lemonation over in the NALCS, and that was really about abusing gold generation. I wonder if Ancient Coin line would be the way to go.
You know, Janna takes that a lot. Effort took it earlier on his Janna. That was quite good. Seemed like he had a decent amount of gold generation. Don't have the numbers in front of me, but seemed to be better. Sungwon comically wide on that one, but does push Eugene out of the jungle, or out of the river rather. Cleans that up, and Lava hits level 6.
They're fishing onto Eugene, who I imagine is one camp away from level 5 himself. Edge really wants to back, so Eugene's trying to walk up anyway.
Ooh. Loses the smite fight, does Eugene, and he'll go down 2 camps, or 2.5 camps here on Sungwon.
Not sure what Secret was doing there. I guess ran out of abilities to interrupt the recall. Interesting. I'm really hoping we see some sick Scion roam plays in this game. Big fan of the Unstoppable Onslaught. Do we get the runes? I believe that's Font of Life on the Morgana. Would expect that to represent a Ardent Sensor, if I'm correct in the rune there. Some of those overlooked Resolve Tree runes I sometimes miss up. Well, watching here, finally Eugene gets some good news and steals away a Raptor camp on his own.
Did have the help of Secret, who is coming up from the bottom lane to just make sure that can happen. fighting back as much as he can. Top lane, seemingly, well, going exactly as you might expect it. Surely part of the reason why you want to see some of these roam plays, because Linderong is not going to get a solo kill onto an Ornn at this point in the game, especially with the Catalyst finished and ready.
Actually had some time to check, was revitalized. It's all about this strength of the shield there. So it's all about shield power on the black shield, makes sense. Resolve tree, unexplored compared to some of the other trees.
Yeah, I mean, the only ones that I know are bone plating and second wind, so don't look at me.
You sound like a top laner. You could go far on the top lane, Valdez.
The thing is, I don't even play top lane, but in this case, it's the only thing I see. Except, well, in this case, revitalize a new thing.
Look at the side of ROX Tigers, and the problem for Secret is that they have the Azir to DPS through the black shield very quickly, and then the value goes down. One of the old counters to the Morgana support was just running double AP because you would break through the shield so incidentally with base damage. They wouldn't have any CC immunity for the Kog'Maw. So the extra 5% is not going to be massive, but it's something. Try to keep the CC immunity there on the Kog'Maw.
Yeah. Certainly getting into that back line and onto the Kog'Maw is... It's not going to be as easy as when Kingzone were playing up against ROX Tigers with the Kog'Maw in that one game with the Gangplank and all that good stuff, but they do have the Azir, and, you know, True Shot Barrage may be able to cut through a little bit. Obviously, Sungwon's going to be on the duty of trying to flash in and break through the shield and then go for the Impale. But either way, I think Soul, after his performance in game number 1, is looking for a little bit of redemption.
Key is having a lot of fun with the baiting and zoning W's here, using the Dark Passage in order to try and bait in the members of Kongdoo Monster.
We're going to have the Drake started up here in vision for Sungwon, and I think after the movements, they kind of know this is happening, but getting pretty low. We have a fight in the bottom side too. Songyun's going to be saved, but up in the top side, Lava getting pretty low. The TP now coming in from Linderong, trying to help out here. The Impale onto Edge. Who's baiting who? Sungwon lives, and Yutun is the one baited in. 2 kills going over, and the Ornn snipe from downtown uses it on the Rift Scuttler just to help out with that. There's no point in putting it anywhere else. As 2 kills to the Azir, pretty nice for ROX.
That was something. First time I've seen someone killed by the first side of the Ornn ultimate, squished by the giant boulder, or the giant Poro, I guess I should say. In this particular case, they're going to push through mid lane here at ROX Tigers though, and Kongdoo Monster slow to react.
Oh. That was quick. Black Shield was on time there, but either way, it gets a little bit of damage done. Let's take a look at how this happened.
So this all started with Ocean Drake being spawned, and we always know that leashing the Ocean Drake early can look very awkward. Speaking of awkward, Lava was stunned in his Shifting Sands and then misses the ultimate with the Emperor's Divide, but the teleport was just much better from Linderong, then can be emulated by the side of Roach, and then Sungwon comically dies to just the first part of the Poro. That was something, but ROX Tigers trade up through all of it. No Drake claimed by either team.
Well, okay. That was, I don't really know. This series has been just all over the place. Some of these fights are, I said it before, ROX, they're like that guy on your team that always, he plays to the level of his opponents, and it's definitely a mental thing that ROX have shown they have trouble with before. Lava certainly has proven himself. We said it before, he's one of the most improved players here in LCK, but certainly not having the series of his life tonight.
ROX really are investing a lot into this Ocean Drake. Love to take it early. Don't have ultimate backup on the Skarner just yet. Desperately want to take it. They're going to invest Sungyun's time, so they should get it. No lane priority for the Kog'Maw and Morgana, as we outlined in Champion Select. So able to push in, roam over. They want to get one objective going. It's going to be the Ocean Drake first spawn for the ROX Tigers.
Looks like we got a second Ocean Drake. Or no, actually, that's a Cloud Drake. A little bit delayed on the CG there, but not the super high priority ones.
Summon is down, Yujin hoping for a lane gank, but difficult to pull off unless Key is the first person forward. So much safety when you go for the Ezreal Thresh. It's not quite Kalista Thresh, but it's getting there.
Certainly, and Yujun still here on level 7, but ROX bottom lane is going to play this a bit more passively, sniffing something out and saying, okay, let's back off, do the Krugs, and come back.
Big benefactor of the early game team fight is that Azir picked up both kills and already has Nashal's Tooth and Merc Treads very, very early into the piece. Got it around 11 minutes. That's going to help them have a lot of options when it comes to pushing out the Rise. And we did mention that it feels like Azir is taking the ascendancy in the Azir Rise matchup recently. This is only going to help out his case. See if Songwon starts to leash the Rift Herald, as that seems pretty inevitable. A Secret's so close on that binding. The Rift Herald vision has been secured. Top lane going just fine for Linderong. So I imagine that's the next big objective that Songwon wants to set up for ROX.
Finally, Edge picks up his Rod of Ages. Can fight back a little bit there. Secret, he was smiling, he was laughing. He really wanted to make this Morgana pick work, but so far, not so much. Obviously, the Black Shield is going to be pretty good in these team fights.
Really like these plays around the bot lane of Kongdoo Monster, using the strength they have onto the Azir. Kongdoo Monster disengage their duos. Whoa!
See you later. Here we go again. The Thresh play with the Impale. We've seen it before. We see it again here.
First time in the LCK, though, the Griffin special beautifully pulled off with the Thresh and the Skarner. Huge, huge was the suppression there. And that gets them the kill. And they look damn flashy doing it.
And Yujun just struggling once again, trying to make something work, but his team not on the same page. And he gets baited into a fight, into that Impale. And the kill goes over to Azir as well.
Now the big problem here for Kongdoo Monster, watch. Soul and Secret are out. They nope this one by taking the blast plan. And then there you get the maximum range suppression. Super cool to see. That Poro's gone through some things, has the Sejuani. Taken out from that, and we mentioned before the setup around the Rift Herald. It's in vision. They should be claimed by ROX Tigers.
Certainly looking a lot more one-sided in this game after a couple of nice plays. Lava is going to be looking to carry really hard with how many kills he's gotten this early on. Songyun gonna have to take a back seat, let Lava do a bit of carrying.
I'm excited to see what his second item is, because we've seen the Rylai's second in our first series. We saw the Morellonomicon second in a different one, so a couple of different ways you can approach this Azir. Is so far ahead. Soul dropped his tennis ball, but we'll be able to go for the recall. Blade the Ruin King first item here from Soul. I guess he's been watching the LPL, as that has become a build we see from some teams there. This probably suggests it's going to be a crit build from the Kog'Maw. Does mean great Baron damage as well, but first, Blade the Ruin King first, Kog'Maw. We've seen in a while.
Yeah, looking to mix things up here. Certainly having trouble so far in the lane, but we'll see if he can scale up a little bit better than this Ezreal. Sungwon's been having a really nice game on the Skarner so far, and it seems like their communication is a lot better compared to game number 1. Perhaps the coach went in there and was like, guys, really, you almost lost to Kongdoo Monster. Please pick it up and don't play like that again. And it seems like ROX certainly playing a better game this time around.
Even further ahead than the 3,000 gold indicates, because they picked up the first strike and the Rift Herald. Haven't found a way to put the Rift Herald down, but you'd imagine he would be considering the bot lane to get the Ezreal out of lane at 2 items. The 2 items are on the way, just the Iceborne Gauntlet to be completed. But right now it's going to be mid lane. It's already chunked out, and that's why they try to make it happen here.
Should be relatively easy, even without the wave. Just going to push on in. A couple auto attacks will do it. And there you go. First blood turret goes over to Azir as if he needed more gold. And they actually gave it to him on purpose.
A high health charge as well onto the secondary turret. It's all about map control when you're against these Kog'Maw comps, and ROX Tigers have it in spades in game number 2. Already in position for the Cloud Drake a minute before, so very early on this claim, and the bot lane outer turret, the only thing left standing when it comes to the approach here for ROX.
4-on-3 for just a moment there, but they decide they're not going to do any diving or anything like that. They just use the threat of Lava and Sungwon on the left side to help chunk out this turret. Rise, though, coming from the left side, and we got Sungwon going to be locked down for quite a while, forced to burn his flash. Lantern's going to help him back to safety, and Lava pushes everybody else back.
Allow them to rinse and repeat. They get the flash out of the Skarner, and that released some pressure on the side of Kongdoo Monster, but will not relieve them of the turret pressure as the members of ROX are high enough. Hell's second turret of the game is taken down. This is the danger that Kongdoo Monster pose, is that the 2v2 with the Kog'Maw was fairly weak, would eventually be shoved in. ROX Tigers now can unleash the Thresh on the map, where the Black Cleaver will not likely be there. So the Black Shield will not be in position to actually answer the hook, and now the problem should be spread to the top lane. They can try to attack Roach and take the 3 outer turrets before even the Baron spawns.
I was watching Key's items as he went back. He picked up a QSS and the stopwatch. Just making sure he's never going to die. Even if he puts himself into a really bad spot, he will know that especially Lava is going to be there to help him if he does put himself into a lot of trouble. The synergy between Azir, Skarner, and Thresh is pretty insane. You can do a lot of alley-ooping and dunking for each other. Certainly, we've already seen some of that, as after the Impale Lantern, we saw the Emperor's Divide come in. It was lots of bouncy fun.
And from the build, you can see what Lava wants to do, because it's all about killing frontline. He goes for the Void Staff second, not for the Rylai's like we saw from Faker, or for the Morellonomicon that we saw against high amounts of healing, like a Zac, for example, and a Fiora. Can be very situational with that second Azir item. This allows him to do damage to the Sejuani and Ornn in the front line that are already stacking the magic resist. They have 2 items on Ezreal. With this itemization, ROX Tigers basically wants to fight for anything. Force out a fight's probably going to have to be the Baron. Well, they have great Baron damage as well. So now it comes to Kongdoo Monster continuing to lose the minimum, and also doing it with pretty meager amount of wards on the map. And feels like ROX Tigers are one big play away from getting a big enough advantage and growing this gold lead around 10,000 gold.
Well, we're going to have to wait and see. You'll notice the banner is already taken here by Linderong as his second item, whereas actually Roach is going for his own Iceborne Gauntlets. Going to be delaying that banner, though, so looks like Linderong will have an easier time pushing with the Banner of Commands. The Baron, rather, is about to spawn here, so they're setting up for it, getting some of that vision down, and they send Linderong down into the bot lane. Everything going as planned so far for ROX Tigers.
It's basically take out a turret, push up vision, get the Baron buff, the Baron online for the last time potentially in 8.4, and break the base. The checklist is straightforward, and Kongdoo Monster don't have the items to fight yet. So it seems like they need to make a very smart decision here or get for a big teleport play. As we mentioned, it's SMLZ style. Rogue Warriors, AD carry loves to go for Blade the Ruin King into crit Kog'Maw. So the one item does mean they're going to have more physical damage than expected, and deprioritizes something like an Abyssal Mask on the side of ROX Tigers. But it's an expensive build, and this game may be over before there are 3 items onto the Kog'Maw.
He's going to be working on it. You'll notice that he's just up top, and so many threats up there in the way of Sungwon, in Key on the Thresh, and even Lava just leaning up towards the top side. They want to get this outer turret, and it seems like they should be able to, especially after they force Secret to go back. Secret on the Morgana, not very tanky, couldn't really handle the Ezreal poke damage. So far, not too impressed by the Morgana overall.
It's been found out time and time again in the LCK. The bans were what seemed to necessitate it for Kongdoo Monster. You imagine it was a sole decision because they have run these Protect the Kog'Maw comps so many times. Things that work in other regions and potentially in challengers don't necessarily work in the LCK. And while it answers the Thresh hook, it doesn't answer the Thresh map presence. That is a bigger problem for Kongdoo Monster.
Linderong very confident, wants to protect his banner minion here. No Baron just yet. ROX Tigers haven't made any crazy plays towards that. Just waiting. And it looks like maybe a Banshee Veil on the way here for our Azir. Certainly can help out against the engage of a Morgana or a Sejuani.
And it can help out for some playmaking as well, as he was already found frustrated on his first attempt to make a Shurima Shuffle play. So hopefully it's for the glass half full playmaking, as feels like ROX Tigers are completely set up to kill the game until you actually pick up the Baron. The game is very much alive for the side of Kongdoo Monster.
Not sure why we're watching this, but I suppose we do have the rotation coming on in. There's the stun, and Roach even flashing away. But look at Key with the mobility boots coming on in with the easy play and hook, and down he goes. Nice little play. Kongdoo Monster not spotting it in time, couldn't make another play on the map.
Question asked, question answered. It's all about the turrets here. They're not going to be playing topside like you would expect in this particular game. They're actually playing everywhere across the map, the bot side of the map, to try to take secondary turrets and make the Baron even safer when they do turn onto it. There is that Banner of Command minion. More physical damage on the Kog'Maw, so with his range, can it start to poke it out? But ROX Tigers full court press. They're actually making all three lanes stand to attention.
Soul just getting poked out a couple times by the Ezreal, and the Black Shield not going to help out too much against that. And he has to go home with his poor little Kog'Maw tail between his legs. Doesn't even recall, he just walks the whole way. Threat of the True Shot Barrage, I suppose, but was on cooldown. Does mean that the push in the bottom lane is going to be successful eventually here, especially the red buff on Zhongyun, going to make this even easier.
Wonder how bloodless this game is going to be. Feels like ROX Tigers in complete control. 8,000 is the gold lead at 23 minutes. They did not opt into the mid lane Scions. They have the great damage coming from the Azir, who's going back to finish his Banshee Veil. The Drakes haven't necessarily been the highest roll. It will be a second Cloud Drake and not the 8.5 Cloud Drake that we can PogChamp about. See, slightly less exciting 8.4 Cloud Drake. I guess Ocean Drake's going to be the one that no one likes when we get to the next patch. It's situationally the Mountain Drake as well.
If the Ocean Drake is not the first Drake, I think certainly it's lowest, right? It's that awkward third Ocean Drake. You're like, well, I guess we'll take this. We want to spawn the Elder. So, looks like Sungwon is going to come on in here and just solo it down. No vision over here. Only one control ward over at the Baron, too. Not properly warded up right now by Kongdoo, but everybody did go back, and there's the Cloud Drake going down.
Huge gold lead in the bot lane. 2,600 gold on the Ezreal. Gives him a snowball, Blade of the Ruin King, and QSS over his opponent. It's just 2 items onto Soul. Soul does damage, and if you take the wrong fight, he's going to be able to shred down the front line. But he's 1 damage item short. He's Infinity Edge short of really being this Kog'Maw. And the reason why you don't see this in the LCK is why not go for a 1 item and 2 item power spike rather than a more eventual 3 item power spike in games that don't necessarily get decided at 35 minutes. Sometimes they're decided much earlier. But if the delay can continue, if this game is still at this gold lead when the Infinity Edge is complete, maybe good news stories for Kongdoo Monster still to come.
Well, the ROX Tigers have shown they don't want to force down a Baron anytime soon. What they want to do is they want to play the lanes, and coming up into the top side, forcing the QSS out of Zhongyun. But again, another inner turret that they're chipping away at as the slow and eventual march of the ROX Tigers is coming through the top lane and now the mid lane. So Linderon comes in here.
It's actually a faster march than it first appears, because it's only 25 minutes in the game, and they've done significant damage to all 3 inner turrets. So a surprise that the Baron is being avoided. You have to say, given that, they are making the right moves and cutting through the map, and they're also getting the deep vision that the eventual Baron start will prompt. Someone has to face check for Kongdoo. They don't know if the Baron's been started.
Oh, that's so scary. Here comes Sungwon. The Ornn ultimate, though, is going to catch 3 in the back line. Sungwon is alone here. He gets taken out, and Yujun will survive after the death sentence. So nice little pick by Kongdoo Monster, and Sungwon getting a little bit too frisky.
Yeah, they need Sion to be able to gap close, but in that sort of terrain, the ultimate's pretty useless. They get no value at the Sion, and Skarner was separated from the rest of the teams. They go back into a long lane. That's been much more profitable for them. Still want this second inner turret.
might be able to do it as Eugene pretty low. They get a hook here on a roach. And look at that damage coming out from the Azir and the Ezreal. Just no escape. No Black Shield going to help you out that time. Looking for another target as the Sion ultimate at least does get the flash out of Edge, who will survive.
4v5, able to get a turret, a kill, and force out a flash from Edge. Not bad for the side of ROX Tigers. They're going to back off to the Baron, and with Skarner coming, they're going to start it right now.
Yeah, it should be easy peasy for them. Way too far away is Kongdoo Monster, and way too much Baron damage for ROX Tigers. Going to be one of the easiest Baron pickups we've seen. And they do get it here at about 27 minutes. Now 10,000 or 11,000 gold even almost up is ROX Tigers very early on relatively in this game.
Again, trying to keep the pace of the game very, very high. Before Soul can kick into his items, we expect it to be Infinity Edge next if he is following the Rogue Warriors playbook that has gotten them to right up the top of the LPL. But such an expensive build, and really the polar opposite when it comes to Ezreal going Iceborne Gauntlet build and a Kog'Maw going 3-item Infinity Edge build when it comes to effectiveness. And the reward is reaped for ROX Tigers is a Baron, 3 Drakes, and a 5-turret-to-0 lead. It's not a perfect game because of the 2 kills Kongdoo have picked up already, but otherwise it's been perfect for the ROX Tigers.
Oh, someone gonna get caught up here once again, though. The flash comes in from Secret, and they're gonna lock him down again. Even the teleport coming in. They're looking to turn this around, actually. Yujun getting incredibly low, and the damage coming out from Lava and Songyun once again. They're just way too far away. No matter how many times someone wants to get caught, they still end up winning the fight.
1-for-1 overall, though, so pretty even, all things considered, but they can continue pushing in. They've got a Zerot portal, all right then, Linderung.
It's Sion's only use in the game to CC them down and push the lane. And that's exactly what they're doing. 2 minutes left on the Baron, and ROX Tigers are pushing down the mid lane. They've got a top lane push going on too. Easy rotation over here. Doesn't look like there's much that Kongdoo can do.
Is watching as Soul's W goes on cooldown. They will lack the wave here as well. Lava starts whacking away. Turret is gone. Base broken in 2 spots. Game won't end just now. But continually, ROX Tigers getting the maximum. Pass marks breaking the base in 2 spots with the first Baron as Yujun has to work out some frustration. 5 hits to take away the Zerot portal.
Nice little chunk of gold. Definitely needed based on the game he's been having so far.
We might get one more chance to name a Baron minion, Valdez.
One more chance. Better make it good, Papa. I leave it up to you. No pressure, though. We got the death cap coming in here for Lava. Looking to just stack as much damage as possible after that early Void Staff.
Wants to explode people on the next Emperor's Divide. Usually used for the CC, but he's getting super high in the AP values. Songyun walks up. He's at 4 items as well. No Infinity Edge yet for the Kog'Maw, so no real chance for Kongdoo Monster in a long lane. Seeing if Linderung wants to pull the trigger. Probably wants to wait for his Zerot portal to add even more pressure. Here comes that potentially final ban, and we're going to call it change.
Okay, I like it. That makes a lot of sense. Change the Bannon minion in the back line, doing his thing. Another hook here on a roach, and see you later. Nice black shield, buddy. That's doing absolutely nothing at this point. As they push continues on in, they might just head down this bottom lane. They have the super minions in the mid lane as well with the perfect timing, and another banner of command used. Not much that they can do against this poke. Soul in the front line. The black shield goes down. He dies in mid-lantern. See you later, buddy. As now Edge is going to give away his life. And the ROX Tigers in 31 minutes finish up game 2. Use all their flashes for fun. And they will get the 2 wins. Very good for ROX. Not so good for Kongdoo and SKT.
Definitely a lot cleaner in game 2. Probably the best game we've seen from ROX Tigers on patch 8.4. First match victory for them since patch 8.3 couldn't have come any sooner. That means that both teams competing largely for the 5th spot in playoffs go 2-0 on the day. Now, Got strength of schedule. ROX Tigers will have to play KSV next week in a game that could be pivotal in deciding whether they go on to actually make it to the playoffs. But all they can do is beat the team that is assigned to them on the day, and they were too strong overall for the side of Kongdoo Monster.
A win we saw coming. After game number 1, we were a bit surprised. We weren't sure could they close this out this easily, but in game 2, the good old ROX Tigers we know and love, the actual skilled and strong ROX Tigers came back and made it look a lot easier against this team that has found little to no success here in LCK, staring down the barrel of perhaps another 10th place finish in the LCK for Kongdoo Monster.
They go 2-24 in the last 13 best of 3s. Not much to smile about there. 2-24, yes, in the 12 best of 3s, I should say. They tried the Rogue Warriors special with the Kog'Maw, but never got the Infinity Edge to make it work. The game was decided much before then. A zoo of minions and monsters and Zarot portals was a bit of a monster factory. They get the first hook and people get deleted because Azir and Ezreal were already so big to go for the push, and it all seemed inevitable, like you say, after the Kongdoo Monster couldn't close game 1.
Yeah. Black Shield not used to save Roach's life, perhaps wanted to wait and save it for the Kongdoo, for the Kog'Maw.
They waited out the Black Shield flash into the Lantern play. That was a style play, as you mentioned, dying in animation of the suppression, if you don't mind. Feel good moment for the ROX Tigers. Still plenty of work to be done. Feels like ROX and SKT are the big story for week number 9 of the LCK that starts on Tuesday.
So much pressure on a bunch of those teams trying to make it into the 5th place. This gold graph, a lot more straightforward, straight up the mountain there for the ROX Tigers. Ezreal with a lot more damage than Azir, something I didn't expect, but in the end of it all, it was a very, very one-sided game. The kind of game we've become accustomed to seeing up against the ROX Tigers, or rather, Kongdoo Monster. Not ROX Tigers.
They're going to be happy.
They're a lot better.
They're happy to pick up this victory, though, and we always say it when a team beats Kongdoo Monster. What does it mean for their big matches next week against Jin Air and KSV? Game 1, they certainly would have been beaten by both those teams, so they definitely don't get the check mark overall on their best of 3 performance. Only game 2 they could honestly feel great about. So I'm still not any closer to knowing whether it will be ROX or SKT joining what is now firming to be KSV, Afrika Freaks, KT Rolster, and Kingzone Dragon X in the top 4. ROX keep up their hopes, but it's all going to be decided next week.
It's going to be a fun last week. We'll have the final day of the regular season here of spring.
We got a great final match as well, KT versus Afrika as the final series.
Cool. That's
going to be a really fun one, a potential preview of playoffs as well.
Match 90. Might not mean much. I think it might determine who gets into 2nd place.
It's actually quite unlikely right now that KT can force have an outside chance if results go their way. But it's going to be a preview. It's always weird when those matches are right there where theoretically there's very little on the line. We've seen cutthroat games in those scenarios. We've seen sub speedrun. The mind games are always real when there's a real potential that you'll play again soon. Just waiting on the MVP here. It sounds like it's ready to go.
Who's it going to be? It's going to be Key. 009. And he says, of course, my Lantern is always there. Picks up his 4th MVP. He's nearing 100 kills in LCK as a support. Definitely seems low, but when you're a support and you don't get that many kills, it's not half bad.
I mean, the Thresh got a lot of value, so he's definitely complimenting me in lane. It was a pseudo counter pick against the Morgana. And still, Key was one of the best performers on the Rift. He also got the huge style points for the big Skarner ultimates. I think it's time for that interview, Valdez.
So here we go. I'm going to hand it over to Ji-sun to help out with the translation of our 2 MVPs from the ROX Tigers.
경기에서 멋진 활약 보여준 두 선수를 성성 캐스터와 함께 만나보시죠.
Key players taking down a very clean score, picking up 2-0 victory against Kongdoo Monster. So here we have Sang-yeon and Key from ROX Tigers. Congratulations on the win.
사실은 이 앞 경기에서
You know, you are in a lot of stores with SK Telecom, but they took down KSV in the first game. So how do you feel?
오늘 솔직히 1경기를 저희가 너무 못해가지고
Well, I think we really underperformed on the first set, so I was really worried.
솔직히 말해서
And I saw SKT playing.
제가 5등의 안정권이었는데
Well, I mean, if SKT loses, we were safe to be in the 5th place, so I was kind of worried going into the games. Then what about you, Ki? As Sang-in said, yeah, we were really interested of the result of the previous match. And we saw SKT winning. So, yeah, I was really nervous about today's match. But I mean, that actually helped us to focus more in the game, so pick the 2-0 victory. I mean, you guys seem really serious, even though you guys won the first set. Who was the most serious person? Well, our head coach was really serious.
아니, 그러니까 막 크게 뭐라고는 안 하셨는데
Well, he wasn't really mad,
잘 하던 대로
but he told us to just get rid of our mistakes and do a little bit better.
느낌이라는 게 있잖아요. 딱그 오로라 감독님이 제일 좀 심하지 않았나요?
Yeah, I just felt that he was a little bit angry and he was a little bit more serious than us. And interesting is that some of the players try some new hairstyle every time you visit Sport TV games.
지금 사실 제가 듣기로는 상윤 선수가 오늘 뭐 원래도 뭐 올리기도 하고 뭐 이렇게 하면
And Sang-yun, I think you tried your hair pushed back.
뭐 이런 연결이 있었거든요.
일단 그건 아니고요.
아니었어 미안해요.
Well, I didn't actually plan on it. Just our coach told me to try this new hair.
성환 선수도 올릴 때 그렇게 올리면
Well, especially Songwan also gets his MVP points whenever he do his hair pushed up, pushed back. Well, I guess we got the wrong information. Sorry.
오케이. 그럼 그거 말고 오늘 부모님도 함께 오셨잖아요.
And Sang-yun, you have your parents here supporting for you.
박수도 치시면서 응원도 하시고 그러시던데.
They were really supportive throughout the game. How do you feel?
쉽진 않았을 것 같은데.
부모님이 약간 강팀일 땐 잘 안 오셔요. 그래서
Well, when we face stronger teams, they actually don't come see me. But today they showed up, and it was really comfortable for me to play with their support.
자주 와야 되는데 약간 이제 좀 막 좀 가려서 오시더라고요.
I think they're sometimes picking up the matches to the matches that is kind of a little bit more favorable to ROX Tigers.
키 선수도 이제 경기 끝나고 나서 이제 피드백들도 많았었고 팬들이 우려했었던 거는 항상 이렇게
But Key and fans were worried about.
아니 어떤 때는 표정이 좀
Sometimes you looked kind of depressed after games.
걱정을 끼쳐드려서 일단 죄송하고
I want to say sorry for making my fans worried.
때문에 제가 고쳐나가도록
I'll try to fix on that.
뭐가 잘못했다고?
내가 약이 좀 맞아야 돼.
왜요? 표정 어둡다고 왜 때려요?
Well, I mean, he can be depressed.
때는 그 어두우면 안 되는데
I think in the competitive games, I shouldn't be like looking so sad or depressed.
네.
Yeah, I think I need to repair on that.
우리 제 양옆에 해설자들도 그래요.
Well, same as the Korean caster, so don't worry too much.
어떤 느낌인지는 알 것 같아요. 집중하다 보니까.
I feel you.
경기 내용을 좀 더 한번 들어가 보겠습니다. 첫
So
번째는
moving on to games.
사실상 복잡한 상황들이 너무
Game
많았어요.
1 was really complicated, right? So let's share a talk with the highlights.
그래서 기억나는 장면들 좀 있어요?
Is there anything you particularly remember?
그때 있어요.
뭐요?
진짜 저희가 막 계속 휘둘렸어요. 막
I think Kongdoo was in a lead
살면서 쳤어요. 근데
and saw them trying Baron.
피가 된 상태에서
아 계피 시나몬 향이 날 정도 계피
여의
Well, so Lava actually dealt a lot to the opponents.
제가 따라가서 잡았잖아요.
And we finally called out Caitlyn, so I felt like we're gonna win the game.
그거 그 시나몬의 향이 나는 그 장면 맞나 볼까요?
Then let's check out the clips.
아 이거 맞죠?
아 이거 아니에요.
아니에요?
Well, actually, this is what I mentioned.
네. 렌즈를 바꿔야 될까 봐. 그래도 이거 좋았잖아요.
Anyway, this can be a highlight, right?
시나몬
Yeah, it was a great play.
시나몬이 다 팔렸나 봐요.
아 시나몬.
So I think we
이걸 자꾸 그래.
couldn't prepare the clip you mentioned.
아 시나몬은 다음에 보여드리는 걸로. 저희 VOD가 좀 준비되어 있으니까.
And breaking news that Sport TV game staff should be studying more about the games.
사실 상대가 031을 했었잖아요, 스플릿으로.
And Kongdoo tried a new macro, putting Rise and Fiora on the side lane.
그런 운영에 대해서 일각에 있는
How do you think about that macro?
저희가 약간 생각을 못한 것도 있고 상대가
Yeah,
이제
we actually couldn't think of that.
활로를 뚫어야 되는데 게임에 대한 그 상대가 잘한 것 같고 저희도
It was a
못한 것
great
같아서
play from
그거는 이제
Kongdoo,
집에
and
가서
it was our
다시
mistake that we
봐야겠고
couldn't
저희가
stop
어떻게
them.
해야 그걸 잘 맞췄을지 좀
So we better figure out some solution for that macro back to our drawing board.
많이 당했던 것 같아요 그런 거에.
I think Kongdoo really got us there.
되게 막 준비는 많이 해오신 것 같아요.
Yeah, I think they prepared a lot for today's series.
저희도 가끔 하긴 하는데 원래 3이라고 하거든요.
So we actually have tried it before, but I think Kongdoo really got us today, so I think we have to go back to our drawing board and study more.
좀 했던 것 같은데 일단은 두 번째 세트를 한번 넘어볼까요?
Then moving on to the game 2, they played Morgana.
이론상으로 항상 우리가 얘기하는 이론상으로는
And theoretically, it's their counter pick, right?
밴픽을 했을 때 딱 제 생각에는 모로가 나올 것 같은 거예요.
But I had the feeling that they're gonna pick it.
네.
근데 이게 저희가 리시를 안 하고 시작했단 말이에요 게임을.
So
그래서 저희가 주도권을
we just started in the bot lane earlier. So I think we had a laning priority, so I can roam a lot.
좋을 때가 많은데
Well, it can be a good pick, but this time it was not.
거의 2렙 때 딜 교환이 거의 모든 경기를 끝냈다라는 얘기가 나올 정도로 그때 초반에 그 둘이 굉장히 잘.
Yeah, you guys did really well in the laning phase.
선수가 제가 그랩을 맞췄어요. 근데
Well, I landed my hook on Secret.
스펠이 안 빠졌을 것 같은데 이게 탈진을 저한테
I think
빼고
he
이거
made a mistake using his exhaust. He actually used it on me, so I think it was his mistake.
판단 때문에 굉장히 좋은 장면들이 있었고 그거 외에도 쓰레쉬가 전반적으로 스킬 연기하는 특히 스카너와 스킬 연기하는.
And there was a lot of engagement with you and Skarner.
준비한 대로 잘 됐나요? 두 번에.
So did it go as you planned?
솔직히 첫 번째 거는 좀 운이었어요 제
So the
생각에.
first one was a little bit like it was lucky, but after that, yeah, I think we had some great teamworks. But trying out with those engagements, I just made Sangyun die, so I feel sorry for him. So let's check out the clips.
요 장면 먼저 불리고 왔거든요.
네.
We actually thought you were gonna get caught out, but
만들었어요.
it was a nice comeback.
혹시 살리려고 쓴 거예요?
아 그래요?
Well, actually, Ki was just trying to save Skarner.
아 그랬어요? 몰랐네. 요거는.
What about this one?
이거는 너가 말해.
네, 제가 잘했죠. 네.
It was my super play, I have to say.
다음 장면에는 노린 장면이었죠 그 다음 거는.
So it was your intentions, right?
살리려고 쓴 거랍니다. 우리가 되게 길어가지고 굉장한 컨비네이션 막 기가 막히다.
It was a great engagement, right?
살리려고 쓴 거라는 거. 하지만 스카너의 연기와 더불어서 좀 멋진 장면들이었다는 생각이 좀 들었습니다. 사실 다음 경기가 이제 KSB예요.
So you guys are facing KSB as a next opponent.
2대0으로 이기면은 4위로 그냥 확.
And if you guys pick up a 2-0 victory, you guys are making it to the first place.
경기.
저희가 KSV를 한번 이긴 기억이 있고
Well, we did took down KSB once, and today KSB also lost out. So I think maybe we can make it to the fourth place.
사실 그 키 선수도 오늘 많은 팬 여러분들께 좀 함께
In Ki,
해주셨잖아요.
here we have a lot of fans supporting for you together.
스프링 이제 시즌이 다 끝나가는데 저희 팀
So it's almost the end of the regular season. So thank you for all the love and support.
그때도 와주셔서 감사하겠습니다.
And I hope to see you guys in the playoffs also. Thank you very much.
제가 볼 때는 저 카메라 옆에 카메라가 더 중요한 것 같아요. 아버님이.
Well, and Sangyun, your father is like filming you on the MVP interview.
카메라 나오는 거 더 좋아해요.
오세요.
Well, my dad really prefers to be on the camera, so you can invite him over here.
카메라 왜 닫으세요? 그 영상 계속 찍으면서 오셔도 되는데. 네, 오세요. 네.
So we brought Sangyun steady,
네.
joining to the interview.
진짜 락스의 승리의 요정 아니시겠습니까?
So I heard that every time you've competed, ROX always wins.
맘돌이시면서 막 지켜오셨던 것 같은데 자주 오시는 거로 또 저희가 알고
And I heard that you competed a lot. So how was today's match? I feel really great. And the second game,
승리라고 제가 생각했습니다.
I knew that we're gonna take the victory.
더 정말 예상했어요. 역시 아버님 악기에 대해서 많이 하시는 것 같은데 평소에 상윤은 어떤?
What kind of son is Sangyun?
저 닮아가지고 말도 잘하고
Well, just like me, he talks really well, and he's really handsome, good looking.
나무랄 점이 없습니다.
Well, he's my flawless son.
더 있었으면 좋겠다는 게 있으면 뭐가 있을까요 혹시?
앞으로 그 해설자 자리를 좀 뺐었으면.
And I hope you can, in the later, maybe you can become a caster for League of Legends.
긴장했겠네. 긴장해. 네. 아버님 감사합니다.
네, 감사합니다.
Thank you for the great talk.
부탁드리겠습니다. 네, 고맙습니다. 자, 여기서 오늘 그 락사 것이
And the breaking news says Sangyun stats says Sangyun won. He wants Sangyun to be a caster.
고맙습니다.
So this will be a very fun interview with ROX Tiger, Sangyun, Key, and his daddy. Thank you for listening. I'll pass it over to our casters.
It was good to hear from Sangyun's daddy. It was a great interview there, saying that he wants him to become a caster. Hopefully after a long and fruitful career as a player first, Papa.
Well, from one Papa to another, your son is doing very well, I say to Sangyun's father. Sangyun had a good series here, the 7-0-4 scoreline, the first one. We got to see the Griffin special as Yujun assassinated the Sejuani. Very, very confused as to the terrain she found herself at, and we were a bit confused about game one, but game two was a lot cleaner. From the side of ROX Tigers, they'll need to be clean. On Wednesday, they have that all-important match against KSV. And the exciting thing for ROX fans is that ROX control their own fate. If they win both their matches against KSV and Jin Air by any scoreline, they are guaranteed playoffs. And SKT cannot answer the amount of wins they can pick up.
Certainly, I feel like ROX Tigers have a chance to beat both of those teams, especially Jin Air. Not sure about KSV. That's going to be the really interesting one to watch. If they can make it through them first, as you mentioned before, they should be sitting pretty, and that's certainly going to make a lot of people angry. But some people who want to change, as you mentioned before, our friendly Bannon minion Change. He's bringing it in, and that might actually happen in LCK if SKT doesn't make playoffs.
Sadly, Change took down Kongdoo Monster in game two, and traditionally Change's been a bad thing for Kongdoo Monster, so wait and see what that means when we get to the promotion tournament much later in the month of April. We'll look at the standings now, try to run you through the scenarios. It's all a bit complicated because what-if scenarios. SKT have a very easy schedule next week. They have MVP into Kongdoo Monster, so it should be a 4-0 week for them. In that case, SKT will be 9-9 +1. If ROX Tigers win both their matches, they're 10 match wins, they're in. If they drop one to KSV, it actually gets very interesting. In that case, they probably cannot equal the game score of SKT, and they actually need to be ahead in game score because the second tiebreaker is head-to-head, and SKT own the head-to-head against ROX Tigers. So it's a very complicated way of saying ROX, if they want to guarantee they're through, win both their matches, because they have SKT 2-0-2-0, they're actually in a very decent spot to make it to playoffs.
Certainly SKT, after their win today, taking 1-2-0, is going to be looking towards next week. And we're going to take a look at the schedule just to highlight some of what you said. But first, a look back on the last week. Just trying to remember some notable games. I was there at the Sangam studio on Thursday. I got to see KT Rolster get wrecked by Kingzone.
Not a lot of action in that particular series, sadly, for a lot of people. Next week, we have some big ticket matches, as I mentioned, KT versus Afrika, the 90th and final match of the season. But honestly, you should look to ROX Tigers and SKT for all the action next week. KSV versus ROX Tigers, first match on Wednesday over at OGN. Could be a pivotal one, as KSV taking any games, and specifically taking a series, will be a big way to actually shut down the playoff hopes of ROX Tigers.
That it will, but at the end of the day, you mentioned it before, SKT, they wanted to have it entirely in their hands, but now they're going to have to hope that the ROX Tigers lose somewhere along the way. And I said it before, I mean, I feel like ROX Tigers can really go up against anyone. They proved that against Kingzone. The question is, will they perform on that day, and will they be consistent? It's been hit or miss, like I mentioned before in the series. You know, Lava having trouble against Kingzone, but up against KSV, I think they've got a pretty solid shot.
And SKT looking for the double favor. They could not take the World Championships over Samsung, but beating them 2-0 and having them actually take down the side of ROX Tigers would be a big help to SKT. And then we get a pretty mouth-watering first game. That means the first game of the playoffs is the rematch of the World Finals, the third best of three between SKT and KSV. It feels like either way, we get ROX Tigers and the change you talked about, or SKT versus KSV. It's hype either way, Valdez.
It's all going to be really hype. The playoffs are going to be fantastic. All these teams are just so good, regardless of who makes it in. But either way, guys, that's going to do it for our cast today. Thanks once again for watching. We love you. Good night.